Hi, it's Rich Tehrani here at the Cloud Expo show in the TMC newsroom. Thanks for tuning in and watching. We're actually in Manhattan today. It's April 2010, a nice crisp spring day, and on our program is Denny Riley, who's with Hatsize. Denny, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks
Good.
for coming by our studio and just hanging out with us and talking.
Not a problem.
Can you tell me a little bit about Hatsize and what the company does?
Yeah. Hatsize is a virtual company that allows customers to be able to look at product and determine what the product does, how it does what it does. And realistically, we came 10 years ago, we were really into training the individuals within a company. So internal training on product and letting the internal folks really understand the product. Since that time, we've got about 1 million hours of classroom time that we've provided to internal kinds of customers, and now we're branching out in what we call sales enablement. And sales enablement is being able to take product and put it in the hands of either customers or your business partners, resellers, as well as your internal people to really understand what that product does, how is it used, and what kind of things it's going to do for your company.
Okay, so give me a real-world example of how one of your customers could use this technology.
I'll take it from the customer standpoint, and I'll use the example of a POC, proof of concept. If in these days, what happens with the proof of concept, I'm sure you know, is you send out an SE, you'll send out a sales guy, you'll send out the equipment for the customer to look at or to play with. You'll get on site on a Monday morning. You'll find out that basically the security guys didn't give you access to the IT network, so then you've got to wait until they get that, or there's a cable missing, or there's something wrong. So you've got probably 2 or 3 people out on site at a customer. You've got the equipment there, and then once you get it all set up, you leave. Well, once you leave the premise, you don't know what the customer is doing with your equipment. How are they looking at it? What are they doing with it? How much are they looking at it? There's just no way to tell unless you call them and ask them, right? So with our company and our product, what can happen is you have a lab set up with all of the product in that lab, so the customer can go on a website, and without ever going on site, or without sending your SE on site or sales guy on site, you give them a web address, and they can access that product and do the exact same thing. They can run the POC on their desktop anywhere, anytime, virtually. It doesn't matter if they're in Europe, it doesn't matter if they're in the United States. In addition, with POCs, generally speaking, there's more than one person that's looking at the POC. So there's probably a person in, let's say, New York. There might be someone on the West Coast, in San Francisco. There might be someone over in Europe. All 3 of those people can go to this website, schedule in to be able to look at the product, to play with the product as in a sandbox, and really get to know the product and understand the product.
Is it a flash-based simulation?
No, it's a live usage of the product, only virtually. So that you would set up the lab either on our site in our data center, or you'd set up the equipment in what we call distributed true lab. Distributed true lab is all the equipment would be in their site, and they would provision all of the things that they want to be trained, and then our true lab product would then interface with that and connect it so that you can really control and do what you need to do in order for the customer to use it.
What sort of product would you use this for?
You could use this for just about any product. Right now we're very heavy into the technology companies, the large technology vendors, but it's complex hardware, software, and anything that those companies are selling, we can work with.
So basically, you provide the inputs into it, and you see what kinds of outputs come out of it.
That's correct. And then at the end of the time, rather than guessing how much these folks has looked at, how much these folks have done with it, you can actually get reports that say, okay, they've looked at it this long, they've looked at these aspects of it, so you really can get some good data about whether they've even used the equipment or looked at it.
What about something like heat dissipation? The amount of heat generated by a device. Is that too esoteric of an output to get from a device? For example, if I take a server and put it at max load, I would love to know how many BTUs come out of it.
Yes, yes, that's something that we can supply.
Really?
Yes. So it's as if the piece of equipment or the software is there, physically, but it's virtual.
So theoretically, before going out and putting 1,000 servers in my data center, I can go to Dell, I can go to HP, I can go to, do those vendors have to work with you? How does that equipment get in your lab?
They would have to work with us. They would either have to decide that it would be in our lab, that we would provision it, or they would keep it in their lab and provision it in their lab.
So I'm just thinking about it, just one aspect of this is just from power savings of servers, because a lot of times servers have such large ranges of heat output that they put, and you never can trust those numbers because you just don't know until you're using it in your configuration. So
right.
you can put 10 servers, or let's say one server of each manufacturer, and just hammer them under load and see which one produces the most heat.
You could do that. If
uses the most electricity.
If the vendors were willing to put up the lab, yes, you could go ahead and do that. So the end game of this whole thing, and it's not just POCs, it's demonstrations, it's getting your channel ready. So most of the time today, a lot of the large enterprise companies are going to channels. They just, with budget cuts and travel cuts and different things like that, they have to depend on their channel.
Right.
So another aspect of this is how do you make sure that your channel is enabled to go out and sell the product? And if they're going out and selling the product, how are they doing the POCs?
Right.
Because they've got the budget cuts as well. So they need to be able to do something to get out to the customers as well. So the end result of all this is increased time to revenue. So you get revenue in faster in the door, and you get out to the market much more quickly. So if you have something like a product announcement, you can get it out much more quickly than having to wait to send it out and to orchestrate your troops to get it there and that kind of thing.
So what's next for the
some
company?
Some big benefits there. Next for the company is continued to go out after the sales enablement, bringing in more customers. We're anxious to talk to as many of the large enterprise customers that we can, because we think if you start with the enterprise, you develop their portal, what we call a portal. So all their products that they want trained can be in their portal. Then we can take it to another level. You can take the business partners, and the business partners can actually utilize that portal without a lot of work. So it's kind of a viral thing that we can do going forward. So that's kind of where we're headed.
It's very exciting. And how many years have you been doing this now?
Hatsize has been around for about 10 years.
10 years, right?
Yep.
Wow.
That's turn of the century kind of company.
How did it get from where it was to what it's doing now, or has it always been?
In what way? You mean
just doing this
growth?
kind of product? Yeah, is the same kind of business that you've been in?
It's the same kind of business, although earlier on we were really focused on the internal training, as I said earlier, internal employee training, rather than going outside and doing the sales enablement.
And so it seems like a really big opportunity now with sales enablement.
It's a huge opportunity. I think every enterprise really needs to have our product in order to reach their audience.
That's exciting. Right?
I hope so.
The world is your oyster.
The world is our oyster, right?
Well, good luck making it happen, and hopefully we'll see you at future shows, and you'll let us know how your progress, or how the progress is.
We sure will.